Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. In continuation to our last talk, wonderful talk, I must say, we had with one of the most prominent and eminent professional who is leading IFRS Lab. We are here today again, and we are going to continue from where we ended up our conversation in our last podcast. And we ended up with a high note and making you anxious to know that what are the other services and the cost attributes which are related to ESG compliance. During this duration, we have seen a lot happening around the world. Things changing out, policies changing, at global shifts coming around. But the thing which remained constant is the hype and the importance being given by the world to the climate change, and it be it been the positive form, be it been the negative form, but we are still optimistic and we haven't left anything at our back, and we are still carrying the flag high with the key terminology, which is talk of the town, ESG, environmental social governance. And with me today is Mr. Asad Mehmood, one of the most prominent and eminent expert leading IFRS Lab. And now there are so many interventions which have been carried out in a very short span of time. And we are here today to discuss those and also connecting the things, what we left to be discussed in the last conversation, in the last podcast we had. And now we are ready to just discuss all of those things with you and to answer many of your questions, which were kept intentionally unanswered, just to gain momentum and increase your appetite to learn new things about ESG in the market. So today we are excited to take it further by introducing ESG Nexus, a collaborative platform dedicated to transforming ESG from a compliance checkbox into a force for real, measurable impact. So with this, I would like to just ask you, Usman Saab, what is this buzzword ESG Nexus, which is there, and a lot of people have so many queries about it. So would you like to elaborate that term, ESG Nexus?
Assalamu alaikum, Asad Saab, and Assalamu alaikum, viewers. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Asad Saab, once again, to be here at this platform and discussing all things ESG. Since last time we met in December, there has been, like you said, a lot of things happening within our sector. Things, have been going up and down and so on and so forth. We had a new set of government in USA, and they are talking various different things in relation to the sector we work in on the environment, energy efficiency, and so on and so forth. So that is one thing. But ESG Nexus is basically a consortium of firms that are based in Pakistan, Middle East, and UK and Canada. And we were previously, all of us, working in the same sector, but separately. Okay, so we decided that we will form a consortium, and that consortium was named as ESG Nexus. And as part of that consortium, we have three core members. First being the Brown Network, followed by Global Tech Innovations, and then IFRS Lab. So those are the core members. This is a company which is regulated by SECP and registered in Pakistan. And also then they have floating members like Cognition Hub and Are You Thinking Green? So those are the floating members. And the mandate that we have, not given by an entity, but the mandate that we have set ourselves is effectively two things. Number one, that we want to be out there in the face of individuals, businesses, market shifts, and so on and so forth, advocating ESG, because ESG is, although we are subject matter experts, but it can be a complicated and a challenging situation for people who are new to this compliance. So we want to be at the forefront in terms of advocacy, in terms of, educating, coaching people, and also formally, training individuals on ESG. And then the second thing that we want to bring out of this is that, we are trying to create a pool of individuals within Pakistan, within GCC countries, Europe, America, whereby, we become a platform, a go-to platform for ESG individuals, whereby, when the clients are speaking to us, that they're looking for individual professionals to help them with ESG compliance or auditing or whatever is related to ESG. We become that go-to platform and we can refer individuals to them. And also, once the client, we have the projects that are coming to us referred by our clients, we can then go to our pool of experts and say, look, we have a project in, let's say, Japan on ESG compliance, would you like to collaborate with us, and so on and so forth. So it's an exciting time for us. We've had the launch of it just yesterday on the 9th of April. It was attended by the chief guest was the coordinator to the Prime Minister, Ms. Romina, and she was the chief guest, and we had a whole host of panelists, speakers, moderators, and we had panel discussions, followed by we did a quick masterclass in terms of ESG, what ESG is, in relation to GRI. So there is a lot that has happened since we last spoke, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions that you're going to ask me, and I'm happy to answer those questions as we move forward.
You have beautifully confined, summarized most of the things which has set the tone and the level high. And definitely, as you said, that the consortium partners are globally present, although it reflects that there are a bunch of Pakistanis, but it's not the thing like what people perceive from it. The global presence and footfall is there, and be any country where such expertise of international caliber are required. So it's good and heartening to know that ESG Nexus is a sort of one-stop shop, if I must say that term as well. So you will definitely supplement that as well. So I think and definitely let's build upon that. What kind of support you expect or motivation you got from the statements by coordinator to Prime Minister Ms. Romina Khurshid on climate change and environmental coordination. So was there a sort of synergy or facilitation, some sort of positive remarks which can increase the motivation level of ESG practitioners from this platform as well, and general practitioners in Pakistan, and which are willing or looking into this as a future career. So was there some were there some remarks given by Romina Khurshid on that thing, on the government supporting this initiative? And you said that there are other panelists and other speakers. Would you like to shed some light on those things, like keywords or buzzwords, just to keep the spirits high?
Yeah, so it was very welcoming, from Ms. Romina Khurshid, that one she attended. So thank you, Madam Romina Khurshid, for attending the session at ESG Nexus yesterday as the chief guest, and launching the network, with your presence. So that now, when the coordinator to the Prime Minister spoke about, ESG and, green energy and energy efficiency, in that speech, there was a lot of positive, remarks that were made. There was a lot of positivity that came out of it. One thing that I especially latched on to, was that, in the last 6 months, there has been a lot of shift in environment. There has been a lot of shift in international politics, geopolitics, and so on and so forth. However, one thing that is constant is ESG. So, ESG is there, and, we are still talking about the environmental challenges, the social and governance aspects of a business, so all of that is happening, and everything is working that way. So, which is good to see. And also that is kind of an endorsement, from the Pakistani government that, they are talking about ESG. Now, that also takes me to, I mentioned this last time as well, in my podcast, the role that the SCCP is playing. Absolutely phenomenal. The role that the SCCP is playing, the, guidance that it is bringing out in terms of ESG compliance, ESG auditing, when as to ESG is going to be mandated in Pakistan, and so on and so forth kind of business. So that, coupled with what the present government is doing, is absolutely brilliant. We had a panel of speakers from 4G Cement yesterday. We had a speaker from Capital Smart City. We had a speaker from Muddy Minerals or Energy, Then we had people from various different other organizations, who take part in, who are directly affected by the ESG compliance. So to bring all those people at one platform, and then having the Prime Minister's, coordinator on the, climate change, is a positive sign, is an endorsement that, we were able to bring all those people at one platform and talk about one collective element, which is ESG. So there was a lot of positivities came out of it. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't, I would like to mention something that when we were having panel discussions, the moderator had to continuously remind the participants about the time, because there was so much to talk about, there was so much to discuss, but because of the shortage of time, those things were kind of condensed down. Then the other thing that was really positive for me, as someone who's passionate about, environment and energy efficiency, was the engagement by the attendees. So people who were attending this opening seminar for us, their engagement, their Q&A sessions with the panel discussion, their Q&A session with the speakers, and so on and so forth. So the point I'm trying to make is that, we had thought about, that we will have almost about 50 to 60 individuals attend the event, apart from the people that we had invited. But we crossed over 100 attendees, yesterday, people who were just there to attend and understand what the seminar is and everything else. So really warm. And then we've had, feedback from various different media outlets, news channels, and so on and so forth. PTV has been at the forefront of, focusing on ESG Nexus as a platform whereby, we talked about energy efficiency and so on and so forth. So there were a lot of positive things that came out of it. And, it is always that one thing, and that one thing, the way I see it as, is that until yesterday, people who watch PTV, they might not know what ESG stood for. Some of them might not know. But today, they are educated one step further. And for me, that is a win-win situation as an individual who is passionate about environment and energy efficiency. So today, if somebody who's watching us watched the PTV clip earlier in the day, they now know what ESG stands for. So for
That's
me,
interesting.
it's a proud moment. So I thank all our strategic partners. I thank all the people who attended yesterday's event as moderators, panelists, speakers, people who just attended as attendees. Thank you very much for your participation.
Yeah, seems very exciting, Usman Sab. So, this is something like what we can portray. The depiction of yesterday's session as in the panel discussions, like real impacts with real stories, listening from the horses' mouths, and the practitioners were there. So it definitely it has its own impact on the audience that many of the people or audience attendees might not be aware of, even what's happening in their vicinities within different sectors. So it's always good to come up with the local case studies, identifying them, and getting their facilitation and support. So it raises another very important point then, because as ESG Nexus is something where you're synergizing all expertise and globally and locally as well. So is it a sort of open-ended platform for other think tanks, other academia, other practitioners as well to join in, or and what is the specific role of the existing core members, if you want to allude or shed some light on it?
So at this point in time, like I said, we have 3 core members, which is the Brown Network, the Global Tech Innovations, and then IFRS Lab. So let me just, take some time in terms of, explaining the role of each of those partners. So we have the Brown Network. The Brown Network is our strategic partner, working with us on women empowerment. Because I personally believe in women empowerment and equality in terms of the sector that we are working on. So it was very important for me personally to have a partner who believes in that. Okay. Now, this firm, is led by Ms. Shafak. Okay, she being a female herself, women empowerment and everything else. So, obviously that was a natural match for us. Then we have IFRS Lab. So IFRS Lab is a company based out of Dubai, and they specialize in ESG auditing, compliance, and training. Okay, so that is kind of, if you so to speak, your training partner and your compliance partner. Okay, then obviously for IFRS Lab to operate, we need to have we require gadgetry, so gadgets and equipment and so on and so forth. So again, our natural choice to partner was with Global Tech Innovations. So these 3 partners together, form the core members of ESG Nexus. And like I said, viewers probably heard from me a number of times in the last podcast that our aim is to for capacity building and to educate the masses. That is our key aim, you see, because people need to understand how important it is for us to work with companies who are serious about the environment. So that is why this was a natural choice for us to have these 3 partners as the core member. Now, this is not an open-ended platform. Okay. So we have the core members, and then we have the floating members. We are, however, open to joint ventures. With either strategic partners, institutional partners, or academia. We are at this point in time, in conversation with a few strategic partners and partners from, sort of college, university background, to partner with us and spread this word forward. So, although, like I said, we are willing to synergize and work with strategic partners, but it's not an open platform that, look, we can do a JV, we can work together, but it's not an open platform like that.
Thank you very much, Usman sir. That's something like definitely many would be looking into. I think like after yesterday's session, there might be a lot of interest in the market how to synergize with such a energetic platform, which has just like brought into limelight by the core group members and other floating partners as well. But that raises another very pertinent point, which our listeners would be interested to know, that how ESG Nexus differ from other ESG consulting or training providers, since the promulgation of regulations or by SACP, the guidelines and other things, you can see a lot of mushroom growing is also happening around in terms of providing such services, which ESG Nexus is also claiming that they can give not only selective services, but from from scratch till end-to-end solution, you can say. So what are the salient features which distinguish ESG Nexus from others? Even there are other big four companies or financial services companies which are claiming to be playing a leading role. So this platform being a nascent one, how you can correlate this platform with established ones and the new ones popping out as a mushroom growing?
Thank you very much on asking this question. So there are a few elements to this question. So the element number one is about, if we are talking about the big four or the big six, okay, we are in no competition with them, okay, because there cannot be a competition. It's like you having to race maybe a Toyota Corolla with a Ferrari, so there is no competition. So we are not going there. We are not claiming that we are as big or as functional or as diverse as the big four or the big six. So that is not a competition for us there. Second element that I would like to highlight on, that if you look around in Pakistan especially, or even in the GCC market, how many of such networks, not that I have done any research on this, but I have not, I live and breathe green energy efficiency and that kind of thing, but I have not seen a platform like this, okay, that can bring synergy between so many different individuals and so many different organizations. Previously, we were talking about, when you asked about, the mandate, so to speak, of ESG Nexus, and I mentioned two things. Number one was educating the masses, capacity building, and also creating a pool of individuals, not only in Pakistan, but across the world, whereby, we can all work together kind of situation, okay? Then the third element of this, is that if you look at the core members of it, they are already involved within this industry. The exposure, the expertise, and the experience that comes with it, makes it so different. So, there can be 10 different ESG auditing firms in Pakistan. There can be 10 different, compliance, ESG compliance consulting firms in Pakistan. There can be 5 different companies in Pakistan that produce ESG compliance reports and so on and so forth. But if you go few seconds back, I said they are individuals, so they don't provide you a one-stop shop.
Yeah, I understand.
That starting journey, and then taking you all the way up to the end, in terms of compliance reporting, and then hand-holding for next 12 months, because you have to understand that the ESG audit, is not there for you to gather dust.
Yeah.
It is there for you to comply with after 12 months. So, we will handhold and so on and so forth. Now, handholding does not mean that, we'll make sure that next time, your audit passes, or you pass the ESG audit. Handholding specifically means that, we can help you train individuals as well with the training partner, which is IFRS Lab. Okay, it is endorsed by CPD UK in the United Kingdom, and also KHDA, which is Knowledge and Human Development Authority in UAE. Okay, whereby we can deliver these training courses. So, like I said, the auditing, the compliance is one side of it, but then for you to understand whether it's your CEO or it's your CFO or it's your CEO or your middle tier management or lower tier management or frontline team, we have this training tool as well. So, like I said, that one-stop shop, I don't see, any other, organization or entity offering that. And then the most important part for me is that majority of the consortium, I'm not talking about the ESG consortiums, but majority of the consortiums are donor funded. They have a donor who's funding the activities and so on and so forth. So there is no donor assistance with ESG Nexus. This ESG Nexus is self-driven by these three partners. And, they are working on different projects under the realm of ESG Nexus in Malaysia, in UAE, in UK, in Uzbekistan, in Finland, in Canada. So there is a wide outreach, so to speak. So that is what makes ESG Nexus different.
Well, that's great, and that is something like the way you elaborated, like the services tier by tier under the ESG, because many of for most of our listeners, ESG is just like a sort of one digital Excel sheet and a checklist, but it has a lot more things to be looked into. So you have already elaborated like the social aspect of it, which one of your core partners from the Nexus is looking into, and other interventions in terms of transparency. The monitoring part comes into it, and definitely it's not the gun, it's the man behind the gun, the training part, and the certifications. That is something very important and critical part, which many of our youth or youngsters in Pakistan, in order to look into this field for employment abroad as well. So do you think that this CPD certification from UK and UAE, as you have mentioned, so this is something like where they, on the basis of the certification, it's going to be recognized in not only in UK and UAE, in other countries as well, and that is something like and in Pakistan specifically, how do you charge them? Because like in foreign currency or in rupees, if you want to shed some light on that, sir.
Okay, so two things on here, and I'll slightly roll back, on what makes it different. Now, I would like to ask listeners, and they can leave a comment on there, that, however many listeners are watching this podcast by the time it gets published on various social media platforms, how many of those have actually worked on an ESG audit sheet? Have they seen that, look, let's say we are working in the cement sector or oil and gas or green buildings and so on and so forth, I don't know. I don't have the answer. But my good guess is that not very many people have probably seen, an audit checklist and that. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to establish a session for, again, it's not paid for session, but a session whereby we can dissect, an ESG audit for you, and that audit will be sector, wise or industry wise, so to speak, whereby, we will have the sectoral experts who will dissect, that sector. And then we will produce a data sheet or a check sheet or whatever you may want to call it, that, look, this is what an ESG audit looks like for cement or for fans or for motors and so on and so forth. So, that is on the cards as we move forward. Now, in terms of the recognition, CPD UK is a worldwide recognized organization. So, yes, if you have a CPD from us, the certification, it will be recognized worldwide. Okay. In terms of charges, for the Pakistani market, we are charging in rupees. We ran a session just this morning today in Islamabad, and we charged all our participants in Pak rupees. And obviously, once we have the international, candidates, they'll be charged in US dollar because of wherever they are at.
Since there are so many services and areas where ESG Nexus is looking at and is also going to further expand the scope down the line. So one thing which revolves around ESG is something for a general layman is sometimes they think that there's so many frameworks, there are so many standards, and first of all, they are not able to understand those, and that is something I think biggest barrier comes that making simple things difficult to understand. So in terms of the expertise, the capabilities, how you can say that ESG Nexus is well prepared to cater all the prevailing standards, be it in Pakistan, be it in other countries. So is that platform ready enough to cater all the reporting requirements and the prevailing standards in the market?
In terms of the framework and the reporting structures, if we talk about Pakistan, SECP has suggested that, the IFRS standard to be used, S1, S2. So depending on what sector you are in, so you need to select a standard that is more approachable, that is more coherent with the industry that you're working in, So my personal preference and choice would be for GRI. Okay, GRI is quite simple and, easy to understand, as a not as a layman, but as someone who does not have a great knowledge and expertise on ESG. So it's kind of self-propelled. So I mean, in UAE we have preferences GRI, so that, but you have TCFD, you have SASP, and you have other standards that can work on the industry, within the industry. But it really depends on the sector you are working in, and it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and so on and so forth. So my personal preference would be GRI.
So I think our last podcast and this launch of the Nexus is something which is being done at the time that is highly required, I guess, in the market where things are evolving very quickly. So my next question then comes out that how ESG is more relevant now than ever, especially in regions like Gulf, East Africa and Pakistan. Are they being driven by some sort of top tier leadership or by corporate sector? Who is driving all these things, and are there any prevailing policies, visions around those?
Yes. So it is quite a wonderful time in terms of ESG implementation and countries and entities talking about ESG, the auditing and the reporting part of it. So in terms of various different countries, like UAE has Vision 2031, which is kind of based on not based on ESG compliance as such, but ESG is a huge part of that Vision 2031. So that Vision 2031 is based on 4 pillars. So the first pillar that we have is forward society. So the vision is that we will take our society forward. Okay, then we will take our economy forward. So instead of just basing it on tourism, we will work on other avenues to bring revenue into the country. As you know that UAE is a tax-free country, but the cost of living is quite high. And the cost of living is quite high because the standard of living is good. So that obviously brings to a higher tier. In terms of the products that are coming into the country and everything else. I mean, if you think about Switzerland, if you think about Monte Carlo, so those are tax-free havens, as they call it, but cost of living is quite high, and it is high because of such reasons. So that is the thing there. So the third pillar of the Vision 2031 in UAE is, forward diplomacy. So if you have followed the news in last couple of days, Prince Hamdan from UAE has actually flown into India, and he has gone into various different key cities of India, and he flew in a Boeing 747, that has a capacity of over 350 passengers, you see. Okay, it's a royal shuttle, but so the capacity might be reduced, but still it's a large plane to accommodate so many people. So, they are diplomatically moving things forward. Again, UAE, a Muslim country, and that, a few years ago, if you recall, there was the biggest mandir that was built in Abu Dhabi, So all of that, put together, that is their third pillar of diplomacy, Then, they are talking about forward ecosystem. So what is forward ecosystem? Forward ecosystem is basically they want to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels. They want to reduce their reliance on burning crude oil to produce electricity. As you know that UAE has the world's cheapest solar farm that produces the cheapest electricity in the world, So obviously that is part of that. Now, again, another thing that if you notice, UAE has the largest amount of EV vehicles in there outside USA. Okay, that is, although the oil prices are cheap in there, but there are so many subsidies that the government is giving. The dealerships are giving, and so on and so forth. So that is all part of that Vision 2031. Now, why do we need all these visions? Because we need all these visions because to have that, what you and I were discussing, earlier about 10 minutes ago, about disjointed, efforts, when you have these visions, exactly. I mean, in 5 minutes, I was able to tell you about the 4 pillars of the Vision 2031. I mean, you land at Dubai airport, there are big posters out there, talking about the Vision 2031 and so on and so forth. So it is embedded within the residence kind of situation. So it is very important for us to follow. And once you dissect these 4 pillars and the complete Vision 2031, you will see that, all these pillars are closely following the E and the S and the G, which is very important for a country, that is in a developing stage or already developed, to have that consistency, to have that, guided vision. And that is where, these visions come from.
So definitely development without considering human factor, that is something that's not going to sustain, and countries don't progress if they leave their people behind. So that's inclusiveness is very much required, not at the country level, but also at the corporate level. So this raises another important point and question, if you want to, if you can shed some light on that we have the nexus over there, ESG nexus. So how does it promote inclusivity, in context of especially women and youth participation in the ESG space?
Okay, so I said that one of our core partners, the Brown Network, is led by Ms. Shafak, and if you look at the ins and outs of the Brown Network, they are working on women empowerment. Okay. So, they were heavily involved. I mean, just to give you a recent example, in International Women's Day, on various different activities. Okay. So that is one side of inclusion where we want to keep or have a partner with us who talks about women empowerment. Then we have these other strategic partners like, Are You Thinking Green or Cognition Hub, they are working on, similar sort of situation, education, women empowerment, and so on and so forth. So that is another angle of looking at inclusion. Then, if you look at, our launch event yesterday, we had invited industry experts from cement, oil and gas. We had representatives from telecommunication. We had representatives from real estate, green buildings, and so on and so forth. So that is all inclusion. So if you dissect, I mean, I don't have enough time in here to go into the details of every segment that we did yesterday.
Yeah.
So if you put all those names and, those people from various different entities who did the panel discussion for us yesterday, you would see, oh yes, more automobile tick, cement tick, buildings tick, so we had all those in there. So that is again, inclusive of the industry and so on and so forth. So yes, ESG Nexus is all about inclusion, working with partners, working with, as I mentioned, although it's not an open platform, but, we are willing to work with, and do joint ventures and so on and so forth kind of situation.
Yeah, so so this is something which again I would like to congratulate. Thank
you
on the successful launch. Because mostly without any sort of donor-driven initiative, people just think that it's not going to work out, but it turned the other way around. It marked the huge success, and also opened the door and raised the level in the market as well, because as you said, that inclusivity is something which you were looking at. So this also leads us to another question that our listeners and viewers, who haven't got any opportunity, or they are full of potential in their respective sectors. So how they can reach out to the Nexus platform. And also, by the way, I would like to request our listeners and viewers to also give your inputs, that how, which sectors or which areas they want the Nexus to give the priority in context of Pakistan or in other countries' aspects. So this is something we'll be going to listen in our next podcast. But right now, sir, my question still remains the same, that how they can contribute, or what are your expectations from the youth and practitioners who haven't got any opportunity or platform so far, and this is a platform which can give them the hope. So what's your stance on this?
So I mean, yesterday is evident. We were able to bring the top-notch industry experts under one roof. We were able to get endorsement from the government of Pakistan in terms of what we are doing. We were able to get endorsement from the strategic partners who are working with us that what we are doing is something worth appreciating, or something that needs to be done. Now, in terms of the engagement of youth and practitioners and so on and so forth, like I said, although I'd repeat that again, that it's not an open platform, but we are willing to work with any opportunity that you may have, practitioners may have, or experts may have, or individuals or young people come to us. We can have a conversation. I mean, since yesterday, since this morning, we've had back-to-back meetings with various different individuals, businesses, and companies, who are, wanting to work with us. Okay, so doors are open. We are willing to work on them. But in the next podcast that we do, I would like to emphasize on two elements. Number one, as to how we can operate together. And number two, I want to discuss in detail the various different standards, especially GRI and IFRS 1. S1 and S2. I want to in the next podcast, I want to focus on that. Hopefully by then, the checklist that I was talking about earlier on, would be formulated, and by then, hopefully, we should have had another webinar on, what an ESG checklist looks like, or an audit looks like, and that kind of situation. So I want to focus on that.
Interesting.
But like I said, our doors are open. If you wish to partner with us, do a JV, work on a joint project, we are happy and willing to do that.
That's something very encouraging, as well as yesterday, Mr. Arif Gohir, the executive director of Global Climate Change Impact Study Center, also while appreciating, he in fact confirmed his full support from his platform, because they are looking to national level inventories and definitely the bottom up approach, how that could be embedded. Our expertise could be used for transparent reporting in context of NDCs that are being revised, or national communications being submitted to UNFCCC. So that is something we need to look at as well in terms of the positive vibes from the government quarters. So yesterday it was also quite encouraging to see Dr. Nabil Amin, who is basically the lead for the National Compliance Center in the Ministry of Commerce, and all our export-oriented industries have to comply with international protocols and the standards being set, especially in EU, and that is something where they also encouraged ESG Nexus, that their platform is there as well to facilitate this platform in context of giving hand-holding to the industries which really need to comply with the prevailing or upcoming stringent regulations and protocols, be it CBAM and be it under EU other regulations, sectoral specific regulations, you can say. So that is something quite encouraging, that you are getting support from every department, and this nexus is something I think that you were successful. This platform was successful enough to make this impact on the society, that it's not only about profit generation or minting money, it's also about giving. And similarly, the academia was there from Rifa University, and they also they are on the education side, they are on the health side as well, and that is something was quite encouraging, that being all stakeholders from all sectors of the economy. So I think that they were willing to support, and they are willing to support. And secondly, this platform of ESG Nexus is something without any kind of you can say money minting interest, they have their plans, future plans as well, to reach out to the audience to make them understand in a very easy manner the things which they are thinking that they are difficult to be adopted. So any points or your views around all these things which I've just mentioned?
Okay, so there's a whole host of things that you mentioned. So if I answer or respond to all of them, we will have nothing to talk about in the next session. So just to sort of add in there about, this whole thing about commercialization and minting money, we've held some really, really good conversations with Rifa University. And we are hoping that in coming weeks and months, we will be able to draft up an MOU, and we will be able to move forward in terms of, working together on this platform. Now, again, for me, as although I am passionate about, environment and the energy efficiency and energy conservation, but coming from academia, the zeal, the enthusiasm, the keenness to work with us, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I like I said, I won't give all the details, and it's time for us to wrap up this session. But in the next podcast, once we have more information, once we have more, we would have signed an MOU with Rifa by then. So we'll be in a position to disclose more information. But the support that we've had, since the launch, which was almost about 24 hours ago, is absolutely phenomenal.
So I think that we should keep the spirits high then, and
definitely,
and that is something like we have to look at. That's the necessity and need of the hour.
Yes.
That despite all the economic issues, economic issues and other inflation aspects. So ESG is something like from yesterday's session, I think like one of the key takeaway was like whatsoever happens across the world, people moving away from even like the international climate obligations, but the businesses which will thrive would be on the basis of the ESG practices which are there. So it's for their survival. It's not only for getting the rankings and ratings at the end of the day. So I think like this is what ESG Nexus vision is all about, and to make the real-time impact in a transparent manner, because transparency is the key word coming around. So how just going towards the conclusion of our podcast for today, I would just like to know about your viewpoint about the transparency aspects of ESG Nexus, and in terms of its network, in terms of their services and delivery. So how we are going to ensure the services being rendered through this platform is at par with international status, because just like if you compare one ESG report of UAE company with the ESG report of Pakistani company, so are there any such plans or we have Transparency International Pakistan as well chapter over here, so are there any plans to collaborate with such a certain platform as well to further increase the transparency aspects?
Yes, I mean, good job you mentioned Transparency International Pakistan. I mean, we haven't been in active dialogue with Transparency International, but we intend to, okay? Because this whole ESG is not just a trend. This is a framework that is going to shape how our future generations going to live on this planet. So it is very important for us to, understand how the future, what we are going to leave behind for the future generation. So whatever we do in terms of the ESG scope of things, it needs to be, at par with international standards. Then, in terms of transparency, we are already, like I said repeatedly, we would like to work with individuals, we would like to work with experts who have international experience, who are internationally qualified, and so on and so forth, so that brings another, transparency element, because people with repute, organization with good reputation, they would want to keep them that way, rather than moving up and down kind of situation. So in conclusion, what we are trying to do is, like I said, it is not just a trend, it's a framework of how we do business, how we lead and how we build for generations to come. And through ESG Nexus and its powerful partnerships, JVs and, the core members and so on and so forth, we can turn this awareness, because at this point in time, it is just awareness only, into manageable actions. And one of my commitment to you is, like, we will definitely do a session on what an ESG report looks like, what are the elements that we look at. So viewers, thank you very much for tuning into this session. Stay tuned, stay excited, because the next time when we come into doing a podcast for another session, we will have a lot of developments that would have stemmed out of the ESG Nexus launch that took place yesterday on the 9th of April 2025, which was a momentous day for myself personally and all the partners. And I congratulate and thank all the partners, participants, moderators, speakers and attendees at the same time for being part of this historic moment for us, whereby we were able to inaugurate ESG Nexus through Madam Rohina, and who's the coordinator to the Prime Minister on climate change. So guys, thank you very much for listening into this podcast, and we will be back on this session again very, very soon.
Thank you, Usman Saab, and you have to wait for the next exciting podcast, and I promise that we are going to come back again soon with a lot of new things and to keep the momentum going. Thank you very much.